The next tool to accelerate your way out of consumer debt in order to develop this positive cash flow is called the debt resolution plan or a settlement plan. Now, this particular industry is relatively new, and there's a lot of there's some bad players in this industry, and it's not particularly well regulated at this time. So this is one where you really have to be careful, and fortunately, by looking at New Success Path, we've done all the research for you and made it very easy to select a reputable organization to work with. But the television is full of these, the radio is full of these, there's lots of ads about settle your account for less than you owe and all of these various things. But most of these, in order to recoup their advertising expenses and everything, pretty much charge these high fees of $1,500, $1,000 front-end fees, and they basically take it out of your first payments so that until they are paid themselves, you don't start accumulating any money at all to pay off your debts. And one of the other bad things about that is also they really have no incentive to settle any of your debts because they've already been paid up front. So we only work with organizations that are paid when they settle the debt, and they only get paid a percentage of the money that they save you. They don't get paid a percentage of the total debt. And then also we only work with an organization that would use an escrow agent or an escrow account in order to safeguard your funds and have your funds with an independent third party in order to protect those funds, and also in order to have you have an element of control over those funds. So that's pretty much an important differentiator out of all of these organizations. Typically, just like credit counseling, the monthly payment is a single monthly payment. And they pretty much need a 1.5% of your debt, and percentage doesn't go down as the debts get settled off. It's 1.5% of the initial debt that you start the program with. And if you can hold 1.5%, that would be less than a credit counseling payment, because under the credit counseling, the creditors tell you exactly what percentage of the debt you have to pay, and you really don't have a negotiating situation. You have to make that monthly payment. And if for any reason you have to skip a month or short pay a month, most of the time you'll get kicked off the program. It's very, very difficult to allow any interruption in that flow on a credit counseling program. But with a settlement program, it's a little different, because you basically have your own little savings account and you're building up your funds in order for the settlement organization to go and offer a discounted purchase for that debt. So if you have a bad month, or if you have to short pay a month, you won't get kicked off any program, but you need to make sure that you consistently catch up, or that you consistently hang in there with 1.5% of the debt, or otherwise it'll take you a long period of time to get out of debt. They suggest a minimum of $125, because if you're really paying less than $125, you'll never get out of debt, and you're basically just bumping along. So that's the advantage. It also is one monthly payment, but the advantage is that you don't have to have any fears or risks that you'll get kicked off the program if you have a bad month. The other advantage of the settlement program is that credit counseling traditionally can only work with credit cards. They cannot do medical debt, they cannot do repossessed car loans, they can't do disconnected cable and cell phone bills. They can't work with any of those type of things. And a lot of you have medical debt, so they really can't work with those. So debt settlement can work with those. You can put medical debt in there and all these other types of debt as well. The advantage also of the debt settlement program is that here you can clear your debt in about 3 years versus 5 years on the credit counseling program. So you can get out of debt a little quicker than you could with these other programs. And these programs work for just about any amount of money. As little as $2,000 or $3,000 of debt, you can still use a settlement program on. Typically, if you only have that much, you should be able to clear it without having to use the tool, but each person's case will be different. Now, we have recommended American Payment Technologies as the escrow agent because they have a good long track record of dealing with large amounts of money safely. And we also have a group of recommended settlement organizations, and depending on your state of residence, once you go on the website, they will make a recommendation for the settlement agent for that state. Since most of it involves power of attorney and lawyers, different lawyers, as you can understand, are only licensed to practice in different states. Now, for the negatives of the settlement, because it's not all good news, there's also risks. One of the risks of debt settlement is you could possibly have a judgment taken out against you, because if you're not paying these bills and they're going longer and longer without getting paid, there's the chance that there could be some creditor deciding to take a judgment out against you. And if they succeed in getting a judgment against you, after that they could garnish your wages in certain states or seize your bank accounts. And those, of course, would be things we'd like to avoid. In about 10 or 15% of the cases, and depending on the balances and depending on the creditors and depending on the states, this could happen to you. So you would definitely need to talk to the escrow agent and the settlement organization to make sure that your situation would be a very low risk for this to happen. Now, your next fallback option in that event would be to move to the bankruptcy tool, which would be the one we'll talk about next. And the advantage of the settlement program is that all the funds in escrow are available to directly be paid to the bankruptcy attorney to help you with the bankruptcy process. So that's the situation. Also, there's certain states that you can garnish wages, and there's other states where you can't have your wages garnished. And there's also situations of if it's a Social Security payment or that disability type payments, those are exempt from garnishment as well. So you'll need to talk to the settlement organization, and you'll need to talk to the escrow agent. They are not allowed to give you legal advice, but they can give you public information as to based on what states have garnishment laws and which states don't, and they can get you to the right sites to get the right information.